Hello, my name is Tuppence. So we made it through winter and we are into spring, and I've got this lovely Tree of Life mould which I got from Temu. Now surprisingly it is from Temu. It's actually much larger than I thought, about the width of my hand, and if I measure it with this ruler it is roughly 6 inches across, which in centimetres is about 15.4. So yeah, usually I buy moulds from Temu, they're pretty small. This is going to make a lovely garden plaque. But first I want to make an indoor version, and I'm going to be using these chrome powders to colour it. I've got some glass chips, maybe not the silver ones, but I'm going to use some glass chips in it, and I'm going to make this out of resin. So I'm going to choose my colours. I want some gold. I think I'll use the red and the green. I'm going to stick to 3 colours for this, and because I store my pots upside down, I've got quite a lot in the lid, so I'm going to take it from there first. And I'm going to use makeup brushes. I've got a thin one here, and that should allow me to get into all of these little leaf areas. So I'm going to put the powder in and just use the brush to swirl that around, try and rub it into the mould. And it does seem to be sticking pretty well to this. It doesn't always stick to silicone. So I'm going to colour in all of the leafy areas, or at least what I think are the leafy areas. And I may not get them all. I'm not going to worry about that too much. I do have some green glass chips, which I'm going to mix with the resin. And I'll use that to fill in any areas that I haven't covered with the green mica. And then hopefully I'm going to get some kind of tonal range. So I'm going to speed this little bit up while I colour in everything that I think is a leaf. Okay, I think I am nearly finished. Now you can see that I've got quite a lot of green in some areas, and then it's a lot lighter in other areas. I'm going to put some green glass chips behind this, so that will pick up anything that I've missed, and hopefully the glass will add some sparkle. So I do have to do a little bit of cleanup around there, but I'll do that once I've finished doing the trunk, and then I can do that before I do the outside. So the trunk of the tree, I think I'm going to be using the gold for that, and then I can put the red around the outside. So this is just the same process. I've got a clean brush and I'm going to colour in all of the branches. Okay, I think that looks lovely. I've got to clean up the outside of this mould before I can put the red in, and I'm going to be using some sticky tape to do that. This is just ordinary packing tape, gift wrapping tape. I'm going to tear a bit off and then lay that on the top, and because all that mica is recessed in the bottom of the mould, I'm just picking it up from anything that is sitting on the top. So I'll just get rid of all of the loose mica, and then that's going to make this nice and clean, and it should define the image. So I'm not going to get any stray bits of green on the background. I've got some in the outer edge which I can't reach with the sticky tape, so I'm going to use a cotton bud or cotton swab and a little bit of isopropyl alcohol to clean that off. I'm just going to spray the isopropyl on my mat, pick that up, and then I can gently take that out. And I'm being gentle because even cotton swabs can scratch a mould, and I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to clean up anything that I haven't been able to remove with the sticky tape, and then I'm going to let that alcohol dry, and because it's alcohol it won't take that long. Alright, I've cleaned off my brush and now I can start to fill in the outside. So I'm going to try and incorporate both the gold and the red. So I'm carefully trying to follow at least one of the strands of the Celtic knot. They should link up and form one continuous spiral all the way round, and then the other one, or the other colour that I might choose, should weave in between. So I'm carefully trying to fill that in. Right, I've got a little bit of the gold coming down into that red, so I'm just going to remove that with my cotton bud, and then I can trace over the top again with the red. Whatever mica you put down first will be the mica that actually shows up, so that's why I had to remove it. Do you know what? This is not going to match up. I don't think this is, well, I think it is a Celtic knot, but I don't think it's going to be a continuous pattern. It isn't. Okay, so I'm just going to colour this all in red, I think, and then I will clean up anything afterwards, because I don't think I can follow just one strand round. So I think the easiest thing for me to do is to colour everything in red, and then I can clean up any areas that I don't want to be red afterwards. So as you can see, I am using a cotton swab and some more alcohol, and I'm just wiping back the high points in the middle of the weave, just to give it a little bit more definition. And then the colour that I put in the resin in the background, that should show through and you'll see the individual strands. This seemed to be the best way to do this. It certainly wasn't working to do multiple coloured strands. So I don't know if this is an AI generated image or what, but yeah, it just wasn't working for me. Alright, so once I've got all of this cleaned off, I need to leave this to evaporate the alcohol, and then I'm going to be mixing up the resin, and I'm going to be using resin from Mouldd, which is a low viscosity resin, so hopefully it should fill all of the intricate pieces in this mould. Just want to make sure that I get rid of any of the red in all of the places that I don't want it to be. Alright, I have cleaned it up as best as I can, and because I've never poured this, I don't know how much it's going to take. I've mixed up 3 ounces, and this is the resin I was talking about from the company Mouldd. I found some green glass chips as well, but they're very similar in colour to the actual green that I've put in there. So I've also got another colour. I'm going to add some of these really pale pink glass chips as well. And that way, if they do show through from the front, they can either look like blossoms, but if the green is still there, hopefully it'll just give me a lighter colour green, because I don't want everything to be the same shade. So if I can just get them out of these stupid plastic bags, that's okay. I think I don't really want that many. And if I thought about it, I probably would have left a little bit more of that mould uncovered by the green. put a tiny bit of resin in both of them, just enough to mix that through. Just going to add a bit more in there. Whoops, get that drip off. And then I just need to grab a stick so that I can mix that round. I want to make sure that they are all coated in that resin, and that hopefully should eliminate bubbles. And now I just need to drop them into various parts of the leaves. So again, I am going to pop the music on and speed this up. Alright, I've got all those glass chips in place, so now I need to add my resin. And they should be heavy enough to stay where they are when I pour that resin in. And I'm just wondering if I want to put a colour in here, so I think I'm going to put some white or Aurora powder. This one has a little bit of a blue sheen to it, so it should look nice anywhere where there isn't any of that mica powder. And it should also be a really good contrast in between the weave of that red outer ring. So I'm just going to mix that in, make sure that I break all of the powder down and get that incorporated. So my resin has been sitting for a little bit by now, and it's starting to thicken up. I'm going to give this a quick squirt of isopropyl alcohol. That should just help that powder to break down and mix in. It's a bit like putting an alcohol ink in. So I'll stir that around. It should help the bubbles to release a little bit as well. You can already see that blue shimmer on the top. So hopefully that will look a little bit like sky. And these chrome powders, the Let's Resin chrome powders, they react really well to a light coloured resin behind them as well as a black. They're not quite like the chameleons, so it should still look pretty vibrant. I'm going to pour this in from a little bit of a height. I'm just going to drizzle it down, and hopefully that will help it to reach the bottom of the mould and in between all of those glass chips, because there's bound to be a few bubbles that are going to want to come out of there. Now I can't use a stick to release the bubbles as I normally would, otherwise I'm just going to knock the powder off and I'll end up with spaces where I just don't want that white shining through. So it looks like again I have seriously underestimated how much this is going to take. So if I was a little more careful I could stop there, and then I would just have the tree and the outer ring, and that might be something I'll be interested in doing later. But for now, I definitely need to mix up some more. You just scrape everything that I've got out in my cup. That is barely enough to fill the bottom of the mould. Alright, so that's 3 ounces. I'm just going to pick this mould up gently and drop it a little bit. Hopefully that will encourage that resin to drop down into the bottom of the mould. And I can see some bubbles starting to pop up already. So they're probably going to continue. I'm just giving this a gentle poke, trying to make some space for that resin to run down in between all of those glass chips. So I think in future I would let the resin set completely with the glass chips in it before I add the backing. I can still see some bubbles coming up, so I'm just hoping I'm not going to have any on the front. Alright, I'm going to mix up some more resin and top this up. I mixed up another 2 ounces of the resin, added the same Aurora powder to it, and to be honest with you, that really wasn't enough either. So I reckon this mould would take 6 ounces. I'm going to call it a day. I'm not going to mix any more up, but it does mean that I'm going to have a slight lip on the back, and I'll have to remove that with a deburring tool. I can see there's quite a lot of the red mica popping up, so obviously I didn't burnish that in completely, but I'm going to leave this to degas, and then I'm going to put this in my curing machine, and then hopefully I'm not going to have too many holes on the front, and I'll see you for demold. It's all cured now. I have got quite a lot of bubbles on the back. They have set themselves in, but as long as they're on the back and not on the front, I can live with that. So let me go ahead and demold it. Well, I can see it's stained my mould, and I do have a few little areas of mica powder in there, so... Oh, well, that's not bad at all. In fact, that's really pretty. I can't see any major bubbles or flaws on the front. So yeah, I think that is a success. I am pleasantly surprised. It's a little rough in areas, so there might be a few bubbles on there. It could just be the pattern itself. But yeah, I am very happy with that. Woohoo! Alright, so there are a few things I need to do. I want to drill some holes somewhere up here so that I can put some wire through it, and then I can hang that up. And I've also got quite a few areas of red that has bled into the background, especially along here. Not liking that so much, so I'm wondering if there's something I can do about that. Perhaps it is a pretty deep mould. Maybe I can put a layer, a very thin layer of resin in there to disguise it. Let me get some gloves on and mix some more resin. I've mixed up a very small amount of resin. I've got Apex 1 coat. It's a fast cure thick 1 coat resin. I've got about 20 mils in this pot, and I'm going to add a blue mica to this. This is a beautiful mica. It's called Stargazer by Luminarte. And it should give me a really lovely blue iridescent background, which hopefully is going to cover up some of that red. I'm only putting down a very thin layer, so I do want to mix enough of the powder in here that it gives it a chance to cover up the red that bled into the background. Okay, I think that is enough colour. I'm going to use a little brush to help spread this out. I'm going to pour some into the background, just enough of a layer that's going to cover up that colour. I don't want to lose any of the depth of the mould itself. Right, so I'm going to speed this up, put on a little bit of music, and I'm going to add a blue sky. Right, I'm going to leave this to cure, and that should take just a couple of hours. That's all nice and cured now, and I think that's made a big difference. You can still see a tiny bit of the red along the edges, but I think it's toned the colour down and it looks more like a sky. I love that shimmer. I can see a few areas on the leaves where I've missed them, so I'll know in future. Sometimes you don't know what a mould looks like till you make it, and I really love these little pink shimmers. I wish I'd put a few more of those in there. I better deal with the back first. I need to sand down the ridge that was caused because I didn't fill up the mould. I've already shredded my thumb, so I'm just going to go around the outside with a nail file, and I like to use this rather than the deburring tool on something like this, which has got a wavy edge. So I'm going to make sure that it's nice and smooth all the way around the outside, and then I can clean off the dust that it makes. Now I want to put some holes so that I can hang on a wire. I've got a small battery powered hand drill, and I'm going to make a hole in between the weaves on the outside. There's small dips and gaps in between, so I'm just going to create 2 holes. Then I can use a piece of recycled wire to create a hanger. This used to be the spiral binding of a calendar. I'm going to cut what I need just using a pair of snips, and then I can thread that through the hole from the back of the piece to the front, and I'll be able to loop it over the top and wrap it round securely. Just need to fold over the ends so that they're not sharp. Okay, that's nice and safe. And there we go. I think that is really nice. I love this. I'm going to hang this in my kitchen. Now the reason I can't put this outside is because all of that mica, although it is bonded to the resin, it's sitting on top of the resin. And if I put this outside, as I did a frog that I did last year, then this will just fade. I need to seal it, and I don't want to spray this with anything. I don't want to give it a top coat. So this is going to be for indoors, and I will make something else for outside. But I hope you've liked this. If you have, give me a thumbs up, comment, share, subscribe if you haven't. It's free to you, and you'll be able to come back and see what I'm going to make next time. Until then, thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.